Today we're playing through Pokemon Seaglass Emerald, the most beautiful and stylized emerald hack I've personally ever seen. It gives the entire Hoenn region a new coat of paint with this Generation 2 art style. Everything is overhauled, the Pokemon, the overworld, the UI, the menus, and all Pokemon from Generation 1 through 3 are available, plus some cross-gen evolutions up to Gen 9. There's also new side quests and interesting NPCs to make Hoenn feel more alive, and almost every trainers and gym leaders teams have been changed around too. And today we're taking on one of the hardest challenges in Pokemon, a hardcore Nuzlocke, to see if we can beat this one. Let me know what your favorite Pokemon sprite was throughout the entire video, and without any further ado, let's see what Pokemon Seaglass Emerald is all about. The intro screen is immediately showing off what this game is all about: style. And after you get greeted by Professor Oak and pick your character, you get thrown into the back of a moving van with a surprisingly very nice and antique cupboard in it. And after going inside to harass the Vigoroth that are helping us a little bit, we change our clock and go to the neighbors. We try to be a thief and steal one of their Pokeballs, but unfortunately we get caught and sent outside. That's where we hear screams of help and see that a guy in a lab coat is being chased by a random zigzagoon. He tells me to look in his sack and pick one of his balls. I admire some of them first because Trico, Torchic, and Mudkip look absolutely amazing, but I decide to go with the channel mascot anyway because I'd love to see what this cute little mudfish turns into. We tackle the zigzagoon away and the professor takes us to his lab and permanently gifts me this Mudkip. We name it Minnie, go outside, and see that following Pokemon are also a thing. I absolutely love it when Pokemon games do this, as it adds so much charm to your playthrough. We head straight to Oldale Town to see how everything is looking there, and the town hasn't changed all that much except for a new alleyway to the right that just leads to a dead end. And on Route 103, it's time for our very first rival battle, not against May, but in this game it's Lyra. She started out with Trico, which can definitely make life for our Minnie a lot harder, but for now she doesn't have any grass moves yet, so a couple of tackles later and we managed to get the win. She's a little bit disappointed but decides to head back home with me anyway, but the professor has asked to come to his lab again. He hands me a Pokédex here and tells me to go and fill it out. But how do I do that? Well, by getting some balls from Lyra. Just before we try to capture our very first Pokemon, our mom hands me one last thing, and that's the Dexnav, a feature that makes any Pokemon game better because it lets you search for Pokemon that you want. But considering this is a hardcore Nuzlocke, we won't be using it ourselves. Then it was time for our first few encounters: Ziggy the Zigzagoon on Route 1, Speary the Spearow on Route 3, and Tony the Surskit on Route 2. But that isn't the only thing we found on Route 2. No, there's also berry patches, and we pick up some Oran and Pecha berries that could help us in future gym battles. After doing some quick trainer battles, we reach Petalburg City where we check out the Pokemart, spend all of our money on some more Pokeballs, and also see that there is a TM shop that will upgrade after every single gym badge you get. And this town itself radiates calmness with a statue in the middle of the river, a new bridge being added, and even a water well. There's also a Happy Trainer merchant stand here that also upgrades after every single badge. Here you can buy stat boosting items like feathers and vitamins, but also EXP candies to make grinding a bit easier. We then head to the gym to check out what Dad is up to, and he looks like a grandpa in this ROM hack. A very angry grandpa that is going to whoop your ass if you don't help Wally catch your Pokemon. After he grabs his Ralts, we head back outside and see Scott, a scout that's looking for great trainers. And I guess you could call me Lamine Yamal because of all the potential we have. Because of that, he hands us the EXP share that works for your entire team, and then we're back on our journey, capturing a Meowth on Route 4 and going into Petalburg Woods to grab a Wurmple. Inside the woods, we also meet a guy that's obsessed with Shroomish, and all of a sudden he gets attacked by a Team Aqua grunt who actually has a water type, Wailmer. After Mudkip tackles the big bow down, Team Aqua flees, which means we get to evolve our Wurmple into Cascoon. Dustox is going to be our final evolution here, which is great for the second gym. After making it out of the forest alive, we arrive in Rustboro City and see a ton of great architecture, including a well with a wishing star next to it. And if you throw this wishing star into the well, you get a free Pokemon. And for me, this was the most useless thing ever: Castform named Snowflake. But little did I know that Castform in the early game is actually pretty good. So I went to the trainer school cool to learn some more about it, and also got myself a free Quick Claw, allowing me to outspeed opponents that should otherwise never be outsped. We then go to Route 116 where we grab an Apom and evolve our Cascoon into Dustox. Inside Rusturf Tunnel, we grab Boombox the Whismer. With all of that out of the way, it was time to take on my very first gym leader, Roxanne. She starts out with an Anorith, a Pokemon that fits her way better in my opinion, as Castform can easily take care of it with 2 water guns. The next Pokemon, Lileep, gets Powder Snowed until it's frozen and even manages to do some decent damage against my Weathercaster, and so Snowflake manages to come out on top. The last Pokemon, Nosepass, gets Water Gunned by Minnie until its big nose eventually falls off. With the Stone Badge by our side, I head back to the Wishing Well because I found another Wishing Piece, and this time it gives me a Tailo, a Pokemon that's probably only going to get used against the second gym, but I'll take it nonetheless. The same Team Aqua grunt from before also stole the Devon goods and someone's Wingull, and we can't let thievery be a thing. So we corner him in that cave, defeat his Wailmer, grab the parts back, and as a reward we get free boat rides for life, a meeting with the CEO of the richest company in Hoenn, and a free Pokenav. Not too shabby for just taking out a Priorate if you ask me. But we aren't done here yet. We have one more battle to do, and that's against Lyra and her Wingull and Trico. Turns out Castrom's headbutts are pretty strong as they both get 1 and 2 shot. One boat ride on the beautiful Sea of Hoenn later, and we arrive at Dewford Town, which has more character to it than usual, with all of the palm trees being here now and the houses being turned into real shacks. There's also added sand where you can encounter Pokemon in, and this gave me Wingull as my encounter here, which also caused my Mudkip to evolve into Marshtomp, who finally has a real cool looking sprite if you compare it to its 3D model. On the next round I grab Walkman the Centret, and inside of Granite Cave, Yummy the Mawile. At the end of Granite Cave, we deliver Steven Stone a letter that he was supposed to get from his father, and he gives me the Steelwing TM as a reward. I do think it's pretty weird that he's wearing a cape, which makes him look more like Lance the Dragon Master. We then head outside the cave, and before we go and take on the next gym, we head to Slateport City to grind up our Pokemon. So we take out all the big buff sailors we can find and eventually even do the Soda Pop House, where we get some nice fizzy drinks for on the road. With our team up to snuff, we enter the dark hole that is Brawly's gym. I have never understood why a fighting type gym is supposed to be dark, but he's gotten a very cool addition to his team. His first Pokemon is Makuhita, and I start spamming Confusion with Dustox, but before we can take this big fat sumo wrestler out, it swaps out for Heracross, his new addition. I start spamming my quad effective Gust, and after just a couple of them, Heracross falls. Makuhita and Meditite couldn't touch my Flying Moth, and with some more Gusts and Confusions, our second batch is a real thing. We then go to the beautiful city of Slateport itself and see the cozy market where you can get all the stuff you want, tons of boats if you want to go on a fishing trip or on vacation, and the docks where we meet up with a suspicious gentleman that tells me to go and meet another suspicious gentleman inside of the museum. Here we steal the TM of Thief from a thief and save the museum and the scientists from the keel hauling of the pirates. We also have our first interaction with their boss Archie, who tells me to stay out of their way. Considering we're not going to be doing that, it's time to buff up our team by evolving Centret into Furret and capturing Papa the Gulpin. On Route 120, it's time for the most notorious rival battle in all of Pokemon against Lyra. She's gotten considerably better at handling Pokeballs, so let's see how her skills translate into battle. Well, last time Snowflake destroyed her entire team, and this time was no different, headbutting her Wingull, water gunning her Growlithe, and Grovyle also couldn't take a couple of headshots. But I do have to mention that Grovyle's sprite looks incredibly cool. After our little scrap, we get the item finder, which is something I've probably never used in any Hoenn game. And after arriving in Mauville City, we see that not all that much has changed here, so we go and grab our encounter Illumise, evolve our Surskit into Masquerain, who actually stays bug water type and doesn't change into the flying type, which is great. And this also made me realize that a lot of Pokemon's typings have been changed around, which is absolutely amazing because some of them become way more viable in battle. We then embarrass Wally in front of his uncle's eyes, which gets rid of his confidence to take on the third gym. And Scott thought that was wicked cool. I'm starting to like this guy. We decide to enter Watson's gym and see that not all that much has changed, and that allows us to walk through the electric fields and straight up challenge him. He now has a Volbeat, who is a bug electric electric type, which fits it way more, in my opinion, and it uses Infestation to trap in my Marshtomp. After spamming Mudshot and Mud Bomb for a couple of turns, we eventually manage to free ourselves out and get out of there. We bring out Snowflake to hit it with the headbutt, and Minnie can then kill Magneton with Mudshot the turn after. Considering we're on low HP, I decide to swap out into Mawile for a Manectric to hit 3 Covets and steal his Citrus Berry. We get hit with a Shockwave which does more than half of my HP, so I decide to swap out into Dustox, who takes it out with a Venoshock. The last Pokemon is Fluffy, and we can tank 2 Power Gems with Marshtomp and hit a Mudshot and Mud Bomb to gain my 3rd gym badge, which was kind of risky. We could have actually lost our starter if that Fluffy had gotten a crit. We go back outside, pick up our Rock Smash TM, and head to Route 112 for our next encounter, Numel, a firing ground type that could definitely come in handy in the next gym. And we immediately pick up our next encounter, City Pop the Coughing, inside of the Fiery Path as well, who unfortunately never got used. One route I was incredibly excited for was Route 113 with all of the ashes. It looked incredible in the Gen 2 art style. It made my character feel like he was on a volcanic island. On this volcanic island though, our encounter was Jet the Skarmory, a little bit hard to capture, but eventually she joined the team. But the town with the biggest glow up in my opinion was Fall Arbor, which has been turned into this farmer's town. There's weed everywhere, carriages, apple trees, and it just had a really cozy feeling when I arrived there. Professor Elm is also here, and if you manage to capture 50 Pokemon, he will give you a Pokemon in return. Considering this is a hardcore Nuzlocke, we can't really make that happen, so after picking some of the berry trees here, I headed to the next route where our encounter was Stantler, which I was very excited for as it can actually evolve into Wordeer. After evolving Zigzagoon into Linoon, we head into Meteor Falls, which hasn't been changed around all that much from its regular version, except for the Pokemon inside, as our encounter here was a Nidoran male. We name it Boris and save a scientist who was carrying a meteorite from Team Magma and Aqua. Archie also tells me that Team Magma is up to no good at Mount Chimney and we should try to stop them there. So for once we'll be working together with an evil team as we take the cable car up there. Next to the deadly molten lava, we see Maxie putting a meteorite into a machine as he's trying to summon Groudon. We came here just in time to stop him and challenge him to a battle. He started off with a Mightyena who got silver winded by Tony, but eventually he decided to swap out after using a super potion, and so Gligar was soaring into the skies. I threw out my Marshtomp, used a couple of water guns before it went down, but had to bring out Tony again because Marshtomp sustained way too much damage. After taking it out with another Silver Wind, we used Bubble Beam on his final Pokemon Camerupt to take that down too, and so Maxie was defeated and promised to leave the volcano alone for now. When you start heading down the mountain, there's a lady here that sells you wishing stars, which is very nice, but we're not going to abuse this. We can only use wishing stars if we manage to find them in the wild. After buying a lava cookie as a snack, I captured a Mime Jr. on the mountain and scaled it down to reach Lava Ridge. And while the hot tubs looked very delightful with those 2 grannies sitting in them, I decided to check out the gym first. While taking on all the trainers, I did 2 evolutions, Nidoran into Nidorino and Wingull into Pelipper. After jumping through some holes, we eventually reached Flannery, and she looks like an even bigger hothead in this new art style, as we start off by taking out her Slugwa with a single Water Pulse before Torkoal comes in and sets up a sunny day. This weakens our water type moves, and as a result, she swaps out into Flareon. For some reason, this thing can learn Trop Kick now, and it hits my Pelipper with a couple of those before going down. With the sun now gone and one more Water Pulse, we take out Torkoal and Camerupt, and bada bing, bada bang, 4th gym badge is ours. As we head outside, sweaty as ever because of the sauna of a gym, we run into Lyra, who says we smell and need to put on these Go goggles. Don't know how that's going to help my body odor, but with these I can head into the desert straight away. This made me stumble upon the Mirage Tower, and inside I captured Ripper the Trapinch and picked up the Root Fossil because we all know Cradily is way better than Armaldo. After the tower disappears into the sand, never to be seen again, we grab our ball toy and slowly make our way to Verdanturf, a town that has way more personality in my opinion, even though the contest hall doesn't change all that much. We then revive our Leap Fossil at the Devon Corporation, and head back to our dad's gym. I thought he would be happy to see me reach this point in our journey, but unfortunately he still seems pretty mad. So let's put a smile on his face by defeating him in this battle. I start off with Tony against his Spinda and start spamming Silverwind. Unfortunately, we do get Teeter Danced, which eventually gets us into trouble as we only have 10 HP remaining when Spinda finally bites the dust. However, we did get one stat boost, which is honestly not enough for me to stay in. For slacking, I switch into Dolph and switch between Hypnosis and Stomp to take this big monkey down, as he wasn't even able to land a single hit on my reindeer. Vigoroth was able to hit a normal gem boosted facade on my Dolph, which didn't even do half of my HP, as 2 stomps were able to take him down. We also learned Psyshield Bash, the move we need in order to evolve. But before we get into that, it's time to take out his troublemaker, Politoed. He single-handedly almost killed my entire team with his Quick Claw body slam that basically paralyzed everything, and if it wasn't for my Rocky Helm Marshtomp, we would have never been able to take him down. Sadly enough, we also had our first death in this fight, as Boris had to be sacrificed so that Marshtomp could eventually finish it off. But that death is not in vain, as the glorious moment where we triumph over our dad is way more important than a Nidorino that will never get used. That then sends me away to the neighbors who have a present for me, the HM for Surf. I give that to all of my water types and continue my journey, but first we make a quick pit stop in Rustboro to throw some more wishing pieces into the well. This gave us a Dratini, Ponyta, Tangela, Smeargle, Gligar, and Makuhita. With these new additions, we continued on until we ran into Steven Stone again. He's surprised to see that we've already made it this far and is really looking forward to what we will be doing next. And while he doesn't know what that is yet, I do, because we're going to be capturing this Manectric right now, and after that, we're going to head into the tall grass to find one of our most valuable team members ever, Buggers the Scyther, which we immediately evolve with a metal coat into Scizor. And because it has Technician, his bullet punches, Fury Cutters, and wing attacks are going to hit like trucks. And after evolving our Numel into Camerupt, we eventually reach the Weather Institute, who looks just like a plain building. Inside, we see that a lot of people are being held hostage by the Team Aqua folks, so we throw out our Scizor against Shelly, who even mentions that we're cute, which is a little weird considering we're a minor. Anyway, we Fury Cutter Ludicolo and Mightyena into Oblivion and free all the people there. After heading outside, we meet up with our rival across the bridge. She wants another battle, to which I immediately comply. She only had 3 Pokemon, consisting of Ninetales, who got served by Pelipper, and then 2 grass types in Ludicolo and Grovyle, 2 Fury Cutters from Scizor, and bada bing bada boom, it's time to check out 4-Tree City, a city that I was very excited to see, because the tree houses always made for a very interesting aesthetic in my opinion. And after seeing how it looked in 2D, I wanna say that this looks even better than the original. It really looks like people have made their homes inside of an actual tree. All the birdhouses that are standing around make it feel even more alive. On a bridge outside of the city, Steven learns me how to capture lizards with a special set of binoculars. Once Kecleon is added to the team, I head back to 4-Tree City to challenge Winona and her flying type gym. She starts off with a Fearow who gets discharged by my dog. The banana dinosaur Tropius then hits the field, so I swap into Scizor, hit the wing attack, which causes her to heal up with a hyper potion, so then I can hit one more wing attack and a bullet punch to KO it. Camerupt melts down her Sealbird Skarmory with lava plumes, while Dolph deals with Pelipper by using Psyshield Bashes and Stomps. Her ace in the hole is now an Altaria, a flying fairy type, so we swap in Scizor and hit 2 bullet punches to achieve victory and gain my 6th gym badge. On the next round, inside of the tall grass, I grabbed Barney the Kangaskhan as my next encounter and evolved my Gligar into Gliscor with the Razor Fang. And I'm incredibly happy with him because Gliscor is actually one of my favorite Pokemon. 2 more evolutions occurred, Marshtomp into Swampert, and I have to say this sprite is absolutely amazing. And of course, we can't forget about Stantler into Wurdeer. I also grabbed one more seal in the waters of Mount Pyre before reaching Lilico City, where Lyra is blocking the entrance to the shopping mall. And she's not going out of the way until we prove to her that we're a better trainer. So I test out Wurdeer on her Tropius, using 3 3 stomps to take out the big dinosaur. Shortly after, Camerupt then takes out Ninetales with Earth Power, and he even hits another lava plume on her now fully evolved Sceptile. Eventually, we do have to swap out into Gliscor to finish it off with Acrobatics, otherwise our Camo might die, and her last Pokemon Pelipper gets buried under some rocks from Swampert. And so the final battle with Lyra is complete, as we turn out to be the superior rival. But among the people in Lily Cove, we heard that there was a ruckus coming from Mount Pyre, so we had to go and check it out. Here I managed to capture a Ghastly before going to the peak where Team Aqua is harassing an old couple. They really don't have anything better to do they? We defeat them quite easily like usual and confront Archie, who says that he stole some kind of orb from here that is going to make him summon Kyogre. And we can't let that happen, but we can't really stop him here, so they flee away to their hideout. The old couple then says that Team Magma was here earlier and they left this Magma emblem. After giving it to me, I know I have to go to Mount Chimney to open up their secret lair. Inside, we grab a smoking turtle, defeat all of the grunts in our path, and eventually reach a Magma pit with Maxie in front of it. He then uses the power of the blue orb to awaken Groudon, thinking he can control him, and to this day I still don't understand why a man as smart as Maxie thinks a blue orb is going to wake up a red Pokemon. I guess we're just going to have to teach him a lesson in colors by defeating him. It started off with a Gliscor face-off. I decided to go with Acrobatics, but it didn't do all that much damage, so I decided to swap into Swampert and hit it with the Surf. This made him swap into Crobat, who loved to use Leech Life, which didn't really matter because my Swampert is holding a Rocky Helmet, so all the HP he's healing immediately goes back to 0. After spamming Rock Slide for a couple of turns, it's Ursaring's time to come out. I swap into Gliscor, do get hit with 2 Grav Apples, which lowers my defense, but I can also counter back with 2 Acrobatics to foresight the final Pokemon Camerupt. After using a single Surf with Swampert, Maxie is defeated, and he gives me a hint at where Team Aqua might be next. They're planning on stealing a submarine, so we go to the only submarine base we know, and just before we can catch them in the act, they manage to escape to their hideout in Lily Cove City. It really doesn't look any different from the regular Team Aqua hideout, so we just go straight to the end, beat up Matt, and see that Archie escapes into the sea. For now, we can't really follow them down there, so we just hit the open seas and hope we run into some good Pokemon. First capturing a Wailmer, then a Tentacle, and a Horsey. Before arriving in Moss Deep City, and before I check out the full picture here, I want to take on Tate and Liza, who look way different in the overworld than in regular Emerald. It's like they're almost not twins anymore. They also added a Mismagius to their team, which is now a fairy ghost type. I started off with Gliscor using Bullet Punch and Exizor. This immediately took out the Mismagius with just 1 hit, and then Soul Rock hit the field. We focused 2 Bullet Punches and an Exizor on the sun to make it die out, but it was able to set up a sunny day before Lunatone was up and running. 1 more Bullet Punch and Exizor, and that moon was also out of here, with Claydol being the last one standing. He uses Hypnosis on my Scizor to put it to sleep, which forces me to swap out into Pelipper and Swampert, who with a couple more serves win me my 7th gym badge. After this, it was time to check out Moss Deep itself. We see Team Magma going to the Space Center, but before we chase after them, I decide to check out the island and see that there's all of these beautiful looking telescopes looking up at the sky, which is a very nice design choice for Moss Deep. There's also added patches of grass, which I ended up capturing a Lunatone in. We then enter the Moss Deep Space Center and see that Steven is fighting Maxie and Tabitha together, and he's really struggling. They're here to steal rocket fuel to try and go to the moon or something. Obviously, we're not going to let Team Magma colonize the moon. So we selected Gliscor, which is kind of the only thing we needed after spamming Acrobatics. Their entire team just crumbled until the very end, where I was forced out to swap in Worddeer to take out the final Pokemon. After this, me and Steven chase them out of here, and he then wants to give me a present. So we go to his house, get the HM for Dive, and head to the C4 cavern where we see Team Aqua's submarine. Inside, it's the usual puzzles of Rock Smash, Strength, and Water, as we then reach the end where Kyogre is in a deep slumber. But before we can wake it up ourselves, Archie shows up and tries to stop us from ruining his dream of flooding the entire Earth. What a crazy dream, not gonna lie. And he has the biggest boy of them all, Wailord. So I decided to jump kick with Dolph a couple of times to take it out before Sharpedo hit the field. Here I stayed in, which was a little bit dangerous considering he was faster and hit me with a crunch, and if I would have missed his jump kick, we actually would have died. But we hit it, Sharpedo went down, and we could swap out the next turn. Bonbon then used discharges to take out Crobat, and the final Pokemon on his team was very peculiar. It was a Breloom. So I used Lava Plume with Camera Up to burn it down. Just like with Maxie, Archie then shoots Kyogre out of the cave, and we go back to the surface to see that the entire region is holed up in this weird rain and sun debate. Natural disasters are on the brink of happening, and we have to do something before the region is gone. We hear that Groudon and Kyogre are fighting in Sootopolis City from Steven. So we start our underwater journey yet again, capturing a Chinchou before the final countdown. We see that Groudon and Kyogre are absolutely going at it, and Steven wants to take me to the Cave of Origin. On the way, he explains that Wallace will be waiting for me inside to try and figure out how to deal with this. Once inside, this man tells me we have to find the legendary Pokemon Rayquaza to calm these two down, and he should be at Sky Pillar, which is going to be our next destination. On our way over there, we make a quick stop at Pacifilock Town, which is so much better. There's a lot more space now, and even an added patch with new Pokemon in it. Here I grab my Heracross encounter before heading back to Sky Pillar to meet up with Wallace. We take the long road up to the top and wake up the green snake and beg him to save our planet. So that's what he does. He goes back to Sootopolis, shouts at them, and boom, everything is back to normal. We then send Maxie and Archie to jail so that they can never do something like this again, and we get a free Master Ball from Wallace. And he used to be the 8th gym leader, but Steven has just promoted him to champion because he's stepping down himself. So if you want to battle him, we're going to have to beat his master Juan first. So we show off our intellectual prowess to complete very hard ice puzzles to eventually reach the man. And he isn't pulling any punches, starting off with Starmie, who gets killed by a single discharge from Bonbon. We manage to paralyze the next Pokemon Kingdra with another discharge before swapping into Rudolph, who Psychics 2 more times while tanking 2 Ice Beams to finish it off. For Octillery, it's time for me to swap, so we bring in my big Pelican and use a couple of Thunders, while also hitting one more on Celio. After healing up with Roost, I decide to swap out into Scizor to take it out with Bullet Punch, and using Fury Cutter on the final Pokemon Wishcast 2 times to earn my final gym badge and the opportunity to challenge the Pokemon League. And even though he's way too high leveled to go into the Pokemon League, I did decide to go back to the Sky Pillar to capture Rayquaza in my Master Ball, and I have to say his sprite is absolutely bonkers. And he's also yelling subscribe, because if you haven't done that already and you've made it to this point in the video, you might as well do it. But this wasn't the only legendary I could get. No, I went to the Lily Cove docks and flashed my special ticket, which brought me to Southern Island. After talking to a suspicious looking rock, Latios showed up, one of the Eon duo. And after I was able to paralyze it with my Nectric, we just lobbed a couple of Ultra Balls at it, and this speedy guy was ours. I of course immediately added him to my team and headed back to Pacifilock. You may ask why. Well, I've not gotten the HM for Waterfall yet, and the only way for you to get it is to participate in this minigame. It's kind of like a bug catching contest but underwater. I never managed to win, but after participating 2 times, my reward was the Waterfall HM, which allowed me to go up to Victory Road, where inside we grab our useless encounter and go up to Wally, who shows you what a real final rival battle should look like. Starting off with an Altaria, so I go into my Nectric, use Discharge, but it barely does anything. So I swap out into Scizor, use a Swords Dance and 2 Bullet Punches to take it down. I then bring in Gliscor, and after it uses a couple of full restores after surviving on Sturdy, Drill Run does take it out. The kill on Gardevoir is easy with just 2 Poison Jabs doing the trick, and Latios with Zen Headbutt is able to KO the last 2 Pokemon Delcatty and Roserade with Zen Headbutt. And so we say goodbye to Wally, make our way through Victory Road, and start building our team for the final showdown. I evolve my Ghastly into Gengar, as he on his own might be enough to deal with Phoebe. I used him to replace Pelipper, and the rest of the team kind of remained the same. I then went to Fall Arbor Town to use the move reminder and update everybody's movesets to the best they could hold. Then it was time for my first battle against Sydney, and I do have to say that I don't like how they simplified the Elite 4-member rooms. However, what I did like was Sydney's team, as Scizor was able to one-shot each and every one of his Pokemon with Fury Cutter, making one of the strongest trainers look like a baby. I then headed up to Phoebe's room, and she had a spooky team, so I threw out my very own ghost, Teak, and used Shadow Ball on Dusclops to take it out. The next Pokemon, Banette, was now a normal ghost type, which meant my Shadow Ball wasn't going to work on it. 2 Dark Pulses later though, and it was down. Frostlass is very fast, so I was afraid I was going to get outsped and killed, so I swapped out into my Scizor and wanted to use Bullet Punch, but misclicked on Fury Cutter when she swapped out into Dusknoir. This forced me out into my own bulky beast Swampert, and after using Liquidation 2 times in a row, it went down. With one more Liquidation, we then finish off Miss Magius, while Manectric uses Flamethrower to take out Frostlass. And so that is how we moved on to Glacia, the Ice-type user. And here we once again show off the power of Scizor. After using 2 Swords Dances, we one-shot Dewgong, Cloyster, Walrein, Glaceon, and Glalie without any trouble. But this next fight against Drake could be the one that changes it all, so let's see what he has in store for me. He led off with the Kingdra, who I was going to destroy with Dragon Pulse from Latios, but instead of that, he swapped into Steelix to tank it. I am able to hit another Psychic, but after this, I get hit with a Crunch before taking it down. I also managed to one-shot his ace Salamence with Dragon Pulse before having to swap out because Altaria hits the field. After using a Swords Dance and 2 Bullet Punches, it does go down, and then Flygon comes out. We finish it off with a double hit, and the last Pokemon Kingdra gets dealt with by using Earthquake from Swampert. Now there's only one more trainer left before we are champion, and that's Wallace himself. And he's ready to see what the boy who changed the world has in his arsenal. We start off great by taking out the Wailord with Rising Voltage from Bonbon. With Wishcash hitting the field, I have to swap out. So I send in Scizor, who actually takes way too many hits and eventually even is only left with 36 HP before he finally wins the fight. My Milotic then comes out and I have to swap here. I send out Manectric but get hit with a Surf, which does more than half, but I need to get damage off. I click Discharge hoping that it will kill with the choice specs, but it doesn't. And so Manectric bites the dust as our second death of the run. I send out Latios, who can take it out with 2 more Psychics, but we do get Toxic as well. Gyarados comes out and is able to hit a single Hyper Beam, doing a good amount of damage, but not all that much before he goes down as well. And for Ludicolo, I know I have to swap, so I bring in Gengar and hit 2 Sludge Bombs. Now there is one more Pokemon left, Tentacruel, and we all know how we're going to kill that. With an Earthquake from Swampert, we managed to become champion of the Hoenn region in Seaglass Emerald. And after walking up to the Hall of Fame room and registering my team, I knew my journey wasn't over. There was one more battle I wanted to complete. So we searched the entire region and eventually ended up in Meteor Falls to fight the most legendary player the world has ever seen, Stephen Stone. And now it's time that me, the student, overcomes the master. For this battle, I did add in Rayquaza and Camerupt to the team because I felt like they could do way more damage than what I had before. And so we start our legendary battle with Camerupt and Skarmory. He's able to spam full restores because of Sturdy and also sets up 2 layers of spikes before Camerupt melts down the bird. Metagross then hits the field and hits me with an Earthquake, doing a lot of damage. I counter back with an Earth Power, then swap into Gliscor and kill it with the Drill Run. After hitting another X-Scissor on the incoming Cradily, I get confused, and this is my cue to swap into Scizor, using a Bullet Punch to take out the old Sea Plant. I then bring in Rayquaza to use Earthquake on Aggron, which one-shots, and use 2 Waterfalls on Armaldo to also take that thing out. The Master of Disguise does leave the field after this because I wanted to deal the final blow with my starter Pokemon, Swampert, after he liquidates this Claydol. And so we have defeated every challenge the Hoenn region has thrown at us, and I have to say that playing through Seaglass Emerald felt like playing an entirely different game. It really rejuvenated the Hoenn region, and I cannot praise this game enough. The art style is perfect, It all feels super smooth, and with the added little quests and mini games, this game is a full-on 10 out of 10 for me. So I definitely recommend that you check this out yourself, and as always people, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. I'm Zwiggo, and I'll see you all in the next one.